Hello, 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 good people. We are so excited to welcome to you to this week's conversation with manifesting inclusion. Today, we will be talking about centering authenticity around motherhood and being a caretaker, and we are going by some special guests. Before we hop in, we would love to talk to you all about a couple of house rules and ground rules before we hop into our topic. So, there's a chat below. If you're enjoying this at any point, drop us a heart, drop us a thumbs up, drop us a clap. Any of those reactions would love to be seen by our lovely panelists today. Number two, if you could, go ahead and go in and press share. So there's a little arrow. Make a note. Tell your community not only to show them that you're here, but you're also growing. You're engaging in that professional development with a like minded community. And last but not least, you'll see our lovely panelists, which we'll get to introductions in a second. We're welcomed by Brandi Kennedy and Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins. Tap on their faces and connect with them. They are phenomenal professionals, and I know that they would love to not only connect with you, but love to co-create with you as well. So, as we get started, my name is Lee Miles, and I'm one half of the co founding team of Manifesting Inclusion. I use she and they pronouns, and I will pass it over to my other half, my greater half, Dr. Laura Gonzalez.
Well, I don't know about greater, but that's very kind of you. I'm Laura Gonzalez. My pronouns are she and hers, and I am the other co creator of Manifesting Inclusion. This is a project that includes a book that will be released in the coming months, but also this speaker series and many other opportunities where our hope is just to engage with community and to get people to become more thoughtful and more aware of topics related to inclusion, and then also to grow their skills and so that they are able to manifest or create that inclusion. So we're not just thinking about it, we're really aiming to do. And so, as Lee said, we have two wonderful guests today who will really help us think about this particular portion of how to build inclusive environments specific to caretakers and parents slash moms, dads. So is it okay if I go ahead and invite one of our panelists? Okay. Ashley, let's ask you if you would mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins here. She, her pronouns. Excuse the background noise. I am literally in the midst of pivoting because of motherhood. We can talk about that later. But I am the founder and principal consultant of Ashley Gaddy Enterprises, which is my own organization that works with other organizations to center humanity with an authentic approach, whether that be through policy, through practices, or procedures. It's time to tell the truth and take care of our people who are at the organization. And that's what I help organizations do. I am a mother, a bonus mom, a wife, a Black Southern woman, a believer, and I embody all of these things in kind of the ways in which I navigate the world every day, and the ways in which I try to embed compassion in my heart for others. So I cannot wait to be a part of the conversation to talk about truth telling, the truth telling of caretaking and motherhood.
Mm. Go ahead, Brandi.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to meet you all virtually. My name is Brandi Kennedy. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I currently serve as the Vice President of Post Secondary Initiatives at Shift Ed, which is a local nonprofit located in Guilford County, really centered around collaboration and, most importantly, centered around ensuring that students have access and opportunity to wage sustaining careers and pathways once they graduate high school. A lot of my passion and career professionally has been focused and centered around underrepresented students and not only their matriculation into college, but really focusing on their success and defining success in different ways, depending upon that person's and that student's unique needs. So again, my passion is really centered around access and opportunity, and honestly has continued to shift as I have grown and shifted in my identities as a professional and also as a mother. So I'm excited to be here today. I think one big part of my identity currently that I am navigating is not only being a full-time professional, but also a full-time doctoral student. And so excited to talk through how that has shifted for me, or in ways that we can continue to improve environments and cultivate authentic environments for mothers and caretakers and all the other duties that we hold.
Mm, absolutely. Thank you so much. I feel so grateful to have both of you here with us. You've both mentioned just a few of the hats that you wear, and so knowing how precious your time is, I just really thank you for the gift of time that you have given us today. Um, So, as our topic is parenting, motherhood, I do want to give a shout out to dads. We know that there are dads who, engage in a lot of parenting. However, I just also want to reflect that historically we know that moms have been the ones that have carried more of the unpaid labor in terms of what happens in homes or care for not only young ones, but care for, aging parents or other members of our communities. So dads, we are not at all trying to make you feel left out, but I think it's important for us to focus on people who have historically been required to do much more of this juggling. Um, and so to that, I want to say how much I appreciated that 2-minute countdown where we had a minute just to like take some deep breaths and look at the beautiful colors scrolling across the screen. I think that a moment of grounding is exactly the right way to start this conversation about the busy lives of people who are, caretakers, doctoral students, full-time workers, and have 100 things going on. So I hope you all also appreciated that moment of mindfulness. So, to start this conversation, maybe we could just hear each of you say a little bit about what are the things that you're really passionate about, even as you're juggling all these different roles. Like, what are the one or two things that are just core identity, values, things that you're passionate about and that you want the audience to know about you? Maybe let's start with Brandi this time.
Okay, I would say again, my priorities have shifted as I've taken on new identities and shifted in my own identity. I would say that right now, my health and wellness, whether that's physical or mental, has been at the forefront of a lot of the way in which I have arranged my life. And I think that that bleeds into other areas because if I'm not showing up as my best self, or if I'm not healthy physically or mentally, how can I show up for others in a workspace or even at home? And so, more and more, and plus, I guess we do continue to age. With that happening, just continuing to center health and wellness, whether that's mental or physical, has been very important for me. And then surprisingly, another one has really just been authenticity in the workplace, authenticity about my boundaries, authenticity about my capacity. And as those are two things that I would say that I've tried to center not only my personal, but my professional, and insert all the other things that we do, but in all areas of my life. If I'm not centered if I'm not being authentic, and I'm not centered if my physical and mental health are not feeling the best.
Thank you so much, Brandi. There's so much in what you said, and I know we'll continue to unpack those very important themes throughout this conversation. Let me invite Ashley's voice back in too to hear about some of the things that you are passionate about or that feel like core values for you right now.
Yeah, authenticity is absolutely one of them. So I echo Brandy. And one other thing that I will add that's really top of mind for me right now is putting myself out there, shooting my shot. Okay. As an entrepreneur, I am realizing now that I have to be the one that launches myself, right? Whether that be my future, whether that be a book proposal, whatever it is. And so I am very passionate about saying my own name in spaces that I'm in, about sending the email, about making the post, about just shooting my shot. And so too long I've been like, I just want to be mindful. I just want to I'm very demure, very mindful. Okay. I'm not that this year. I am putting myself out there. I am hitting send. I am going for it because I believe so much in my heart that I have something to say. And so I want other people to know about it, whether they say yes to me or not. It's not going to be that they never heard of me because I'm putting myself in front of them. And so that's what's really been top of mind for me this year in my second year of entrepreneurship is putting myself out there.
Mhm. If I'd like to follow up on that for just a second, if I can. I think that one of the things about motherhood and that there's sort of this like mystique that's been created around motherhood, and that's definitely different for, like a white person who is also a mother, a black person who's also a mother, people of different socioeconomic statuses who are also moms. Like there's different little boxes that maybe society has told us it's okay to be like this as a mom. And so I just love the fact that you all have spoken up for like being a mom and also being a doctoral student, being a mom and also putting your name out there and taking your shot, being a mom and also including yourself in the circle of people who are worth taking good care of, not just like caring for everybody else out there. So I love the fact that we're already just expanding on these ideas of like, what does it mean to be a mom? I will say that when I started my academic career, I came to my interview for my faculty position with a breast milk pump with me because I had 3-month-old twins at home. And so I had to like tell them right away. I think sometimes there's questions of people like, when do I let people know that like I'm a mom or I'm thinking about starting a family? And so those questions of authenticity and being able to show up and be real with people about like, well, yes, I will come for this interview because I want this opportunity and I'm going to need a break, to pump once in a while. So I wonder if either of you have any of those kinds of like moments where authenticity and motherhood and everything else you were trying to accomplish, like not put you in a spot, but like where it was a dilemma that you had to kind of resolve and find a way forward. I don't know, either one can start. Who has a story?
Yeah, so like I said, I've had Ashley Gaddy Enterprises since 2016, but I decided to transition after the birth of my daughter, and I really had to ask myself the question: am I willing to say no to a gig because she's 2 months? Because this is how I pay the bills that I need to have her. You know what I'm saying? This is how I pay for the things she needs. And yet my body isn't ready yet. And so if we know higher ed, like we know higher ed, summertime is training season. And I had her in May. And so I was like, what am I willing to do between my own postpartum body, my child who is nursing, and cash? You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're being honest, not only, yes, the impact, always the impact, and the way in which I feed my family, you know what I'm saying? And so I had to really kind of make a decision. And I'm just so grateful for the community of professionals that I keep around me who I know do good work, because a few times that summer, in the name of Ashley Gaddy Enterprises, they trained on behalf of my business. And so I was still represented, but someone else was facilitating. And it was just so beautiful the ways in which, to your point, Brandi, I was able to be authentic with my boundaries and still make impact through my business, through my content, and just be in community with other professionals who are like, you didn't even have to finish the sentence. I got you, girl. I'm going on your behalf. What you need, give me the slides. I'll do whatever needs to be done. But that moment to make that decision when that's the only income that I have was very hard.
Mm-hmm. Brandi, do you want to tag on to that?
Yeah, I would say a few things went through my head, but what really hit for me is that I've had the privilege of working at the same organization as I've transitioned into motherhood. So they've seen me in all areas of life, as a graduate student, as a mother, through breakups, through this, through that, all of those things. So I would say that as I sat home and took a chance to be with my family, I really struggled about like, oh man, like I will advocate for anybody else. I will speak up for anybody else, but I was afraid to do it for myself because in my head as a young professional who had just become a mother, I'm like, I felt like I had to choose. Okay, am I gonna choose to move forward in my career, or is this just it for me? And so one of the things I just have to praise the organization in which I work for, because although I was nervous about these things, they didn't even make me have to ask these questions, which is great to have leadership who understands whether it's being a caretaker and taking care of someone or being a mother for themselves. And so that's been very valuable. But also, like you said, Ashley, having those people around you that'll take it. So I quickly remember, I'll never forget going to a local high school, and I had my baby on my hip, and the person that I was working with was like, wow, like, You didn't have to come out here. I didn't know you still had your child. I'm like, well, the daycare wait list is still going. And like Ashley said, my bills are still going. And so my impact must continue. And so that's just a small example of how the work must go on. But continuing to surround yourself with people or within organizations that will not make you feel like you have to choose, but also take some things off your plate sometimes if that's what you need.
Absolutely. Lee, let me make space for you. What thoughts you have?
Yes, so I think there are a lot of nuances. So when I think about myself potentially as a mother one day, right? So I'm Black, I'm queer. I go in between these identity lines to where even for me to think about motherhood takes um, its own attack on those nuances that come with it. But specifically for you all, giving your identities, may that be education, may that be race, may that be gender, what nuances exist for you as a parent and or co-parent and also as a caretaker? And I'll take Ashley first.
Yeah, the nuances for me are navigating what motherhood looks like when you didn't birth the children you're taking care of. And so in my head, okay, so here's a quick story. In my head, I was like, I'm gonna have one, maybe two. Okay, that's it. And if it's just one, I'm cool with that. Then I was getting like Brandi says, as we age, okay, nothing was coming together that made me feel comfortable that now is the time. So I told myself by the time when I turned 34, if I don't feel comfortable enough, I'm gonna start the adoption process. So by 35, I was gonna adopt a 4-year-old little Black boy. He was gonna be just a little heavy with glasses. Ooh, that's what I was looking for. And I wanted him to breathe like this. You see what I'm saying? Like that was gonna be my little baby. That was gonna be my little baby. And it was gonna be me and him, and we were gonna ride out life together. And then I was also saying a prayer. And the prayer that I said right before this literally happened is I switched my prayer about companionship, about wanting a partner who was kind. And then I got a companion who was kind, who also had 3 kids. And so then I was like, this not what I said. I said I wanted one, maybe two. And so this nuance of even shifting the expectation of my desire shifted. You see what I'm saying? And so now it's like, okay, well, because I had never thought of this as an option, what does this now mean for me? And so that is what I navigated the very beginning of my relationships with these girls. This is what I navigated in the relationship with their mother, because to me, motherhood was going to be between me and mines, and we was going to work it out. But now it's me, mines, and them. You see what I'm saying? And so that's a nuance to try to mentally shift that now you are parenting children who weren't yours, and now mothering looks like a relationship with their mother.
Thank you so much for that. I love those insights just about what motherhood is adopted to be, whether we quote have them or not. But we're also the mothers, also sometimes of our students that we've had. If you all have been a part of higher education and student affairs, so I think that about that a lot. How many times I've been called Mama Lee, and I'm like, you're not mine because I can't claim you on my taxes. But I love the beauty of that. So let's go over to Brandi. What you got?
So I actually interpreted that question a little bit differently. But Ashley, your response made me think as I entered into motherhood, I also, my child's father had an older child as well. And so that was something that I had to navigate and sort of better understand that I was not only navigating transitioning to my own identity as a motherhood, but also navigating what that may look like for my child's sibling. And so, but furthermore, when I thought about the just nuances of motherhood, I thought about just assumptions that sometimes go on as you talk about being a mother or even being a single parent. Because I appreciate you praising fathers at the beginning of this, and I know we're centering this conversation around motherhood, but I think there's oftentimes misconceptions that because I am a single Black mother, that there's not a presence of my child's father in his life, but that's definitely not the case. And we've been able to actively co-parent and very well and effectively. But I think that that's a nuance that comes, and I don't know what it comes with or just the assumption, but there's like a cultural nuance that comes with being a single mother and what that means. Because although I may be single, I feel like my village is strong, whether it's his dad, whether it's his family, whether it's my friends. Like, we have a village that helps lift up motherhood and just parenthood overall.
Yeah, Lee, if y'all don't mind, can I just interject right here? Because what that is, these conversations are prisms and a framework where we can then shift the lens to the systems that are attached to those identities and nuances and messages. You see what I'm saying? So everything that we are embodied within our identities, there is a system of power and oppression that kind of creates the message about what our narrative. And so the ways in which even, Brandi and her identities would be perceived off of name alone, off of title alone, are very different than the ways in which somebody else in a different body, someone else in a different skin, someone else in a different positionality would be viewed. And so we have to ask the question of why is that so? And that points us to the systems of inequity that create that message about her body in the first place. So our narratives are prisms to systems.
Absolutely. I want to also shout out to Ashley because I follow her on LinkedIn and thought she made a really deep, beautiful, insightful comment about Michelle Obama's speech last night. And just thinking about like the fact that she is a mom and that she, was very intentional about the way she performed her parenting role while they were in the White House, but also that she showed up and gave that speech last night as a daughter grieving the loss of her own mother. And so I just really appreciate your acknowledgement of the systems that are within us and that are maybe seeking to place some of us in different positionality with regards to others. But I also really want to underscore the fact that you both have named community as so important. So whether that's community of folks who will like step in and support your work while you have something you need to do with your family hat on, whether that's the community of like the two parents of the child or the grandparents or the friend down the street or the auntie who's like fictive kin, or that community is one of the things that makes parenting possible, I think, in the context of everything else we're trying to do. And so if anyone out there is listening and asking some of those questions that I think are really common about like, well, I don't know if I can add parent to the list of everything else I'm doing right now, or, when's the right time, or I only wanted one, but now all of a sudden there's three. So, just reminding yourself that there are people around you and that parenting is also, from my personal point of view, like a gift to the universe, right? Like we are contributing life, we're contributing future college students for people to work with and keep their jobs. We're contributing, people who are going to be part of communities and economies and the world, hopefully be leaders, make differences. And so I feel like parenting can be seen as an act of service in that way, but that we don't do it alone. And so I think that's one really encouraging piece of this whole conversation, is thinking about the communities that can support us through the stresses of parenting and multiple roles. If you all think about either advice you wish someone had given you about mixing in parenting with some of your other roles, or some good advice you have now based on your experience that you could give others, what are some things we can say to encourage people who are either in the thick of it and doing this or considering stepping into parenting along with work, studies, everything else that they have going on? Either one can answer.
Brandi, you want to start this one off?
Yeah, I got you.
All right.
So it sounds so cliche, and I was like, think of something else to say, Brandi, but it's the truth. Give yourself grace, right? Thinking back to when I was talking about health and wellness, I used to feel horrible going to work out for 45 minutes because I felt like, dang, I just got home from work. The least I could do, my child been at daycare all day. The least I could do is be home, right? And then I realized just the importance of continuing to pour my own cup, but give yourself grace. And sometimes it's okay to go to sleep. Like sometimes after I have had a long day of being, I told my friend yesterday, I live 5 different lives today, and I don't have the capacity for 6 right now. So I'm about to go to sleep, and I'm gonna try again tomorrow. So I say give yourself grace, but with that grace, get up again tomorrow, ready to seize the day, I guess, ready to refresh. So give yourself grace, but also understand that um, any commitment you make, whether it's motherhood, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's eating healthy, it takes sacrifice at times. It won't always be unicorns and rainbows and really cute and everything. Um, and there will be some very rewarding moments. And there will be also some times where you're like, look, I am over this. I need a break. But throughout all of that, maintaining that grace, but also just finding what works for you to be able to maintain that peace and grace, even when it gets tough, even when everything goes wrong that day and all of the 6 roles you have served in. So those are, you asked for one thing and I gave you like 5, but give yourself grace is the bold words for that.
Mhm. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and some people kind of feel a way about kind of what I'm saying, going to say, and how I say it. And um, your kids ain't number one all the time. Your kids ain't number one all the time, and sometimes that's hard because for a grandmother, baby boomer like my mom, that was not the message. It was everything for your kids. You do everything for your kids. My dream will no longer be a thing because of my children. My determination, my gift, it will not come because of my children. I will do everything for them. Number one. And millennials and G and Z are like, wait, what's the cost? What is that? What is that? What does that mean? I don't think I'm willing to lose myself for my kids. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that advice is something, because again, because I came into motherhood very quickly, I didn't have a lot of time for the advice because I was dating my man, and then boom, and then boom, 2 months later, pow, pow. And then we had a kid very quickly after we got engaged. So it was like I went from 0 to 4 kids in 1 year, is what I say. So I didn't have enough time to get advice because, there was no pregnancy journey that entered me into motherhood. It was like, hello, here are my children. So what I would say is that keep yourself, and I would even argue that if you do have a partner, keep that relationship also top of mind, because our children pivot all the time and shift all the time. You were under me 6 months ago, and now you don't want to even be around me because you don't think I'm that cool, but my man's still here. You feel me? But I'm still here. And some people debate that about kids being number one. And my advice would be, I'm gonna take care of me. I'm gonna take care of who I lay beside, and then I got you, boo. And I think that in a way, what it did for me is it released me to still say I can be me. It kind of took a little of the pressure off of this mother title. And it allowed me to say, I can still be friend. I can still be lover. I can still be partner. I can still be me. Motherhood doesn't take away my identity. It just is another avenue of identity. And so if I had time for advice, that's what I would want someone to tell me.
Mhm.
So I have a quick question. Just as we're thinking about um, inclusion is something that we often leave out when we think about mothers, right? So we've got these standard HR policies like FMLA, right? But you don't get that when you get married and become now a co-parent or this mother by marriage, right? And we've got these other lactation rooms that we think about often at conferences. But what are some other inclusive practices that you've seen that really help you on a day-to-day basis, or you would like to see that would really increase the inclusion specifically at a workplace or at a community space? So church, nonprofit, volunteer. But what are some of those practices? And we'll start over with Brandi and then we'll head over with Ashley.
Yeah, so no shade to my organization because they've been great. But one of the challenges that you do face as a small nonprofit is just eligibility for certain like disability, like short-term disability, just based off the number of employees that you have at your organization, which is not something we can really control overnight. So I've appreciated, honestly, it's cliche, flexibility to be able to work from home when needed. But if my son is sick, and you know how the daycare is, if you go home one day, you're not coming back the next day. So that's 2 days already. But just that understanding that I don't need to be glued to my chair for my work to continue. But also, I really appreciated mental health days or just days that are not taking as PTO. It's just I need a moment to regroup, whether it's because my son is home from daycare, or maybe he just stayed up all night and I've only had 1 hour of sleep. So today I cannot be my best self. So those are two small things. But also just like sounds sounds small, but like a massage chair. It's not a lactation room. But there is a closed space for me to think about these things. And it was actually very interesting because we always say I have the first shift ed baby, but I was the first person at the organization to have a baby. So they had to begin thinking about those things, about the formation of a lactation room, about what policies that we had about taking time off. And I'm glad that those policies were in my favor, but not every organization or place you work or place that you oversee or as an entrepreneur is going to be able to have those accommodations. But I've greatly appreciated that and think that is something that other organizations can learn from, but also understanding even if you don't already have it, that doesn't mean you can't create it or reassess what policies exist or don't exist.
Thank you so much for that, Brandi. And if you enjoyed any of those comments or anything that's been said so far, drop a heart, drop some claps, let folks know that you hear them and it's something valuable that's said. And if you have a question, please drop that in the chat as well. Dr. Ashley, what you got for us? And thank you for that, Brandi.
Yeah, thank you, Brandy. I think for me, I'm always going to kind of tackle systems first because that's just who I am. And so as we continue to unpack and unravel this word professional, we need to continue to do that because not only is this word professional steeped in whiteness, it's also steeped in patriarchy. It's also steeped in a European view of how we should show up at work. And so that includes kind of releasing what is professional. If I'm on a call and my toddler runs past the screen or somebody is going to the kitchen behind me, that does not make me less professional. Okay. That does not mean that I can't do the work that we're talking about. But this idea of what's professional means that you're supposed to be in one place. You're supposed to look a certain way. All distractions must be gone. And don't get me wrong, of course, there's things like video quality, audio quality, right? I had to pivot to a coffee shop today because me, mom, wants to buy my kids clothes, and I'm not going to say no to that. But it is about the fact that me sitting in a coffee shop does not make me less professional than if I were in my office. And it's just that nuance in the ways when we think about professionalism that can be more inclusive around motherhood. And then I also want to pause here and talk more about caretaking and the ways in which we are inclusive of caretaking outside of motherhood. And so I had the privilege and the honor of witnessing both my parents be caretakers of their parents. And it weighs on you. It weighs on you. And I think that organizations, communities can be more inclusive with leaning into the narrative behind caretaking, and making that more normalized in the workplace outside of motherhood. By kind of indirectly caretaking for my grandparents, I also got to witness the time that it takes to give a person who is older a bath, the time it takes to brush their hair, the time it takes to fix their plate. And so organizations need to be more inclusive with kind of like, to your point, Brandi, that flexibility and allotment of time. Hey, I need an extra 30 minutes. I can make it up on the back end, but it takes a little longer for me to just walk my parent from the bathroom to the kitchen. I can't just zip, zip, zip anymore. I have to go at the pace of the person I'm caring for. And so I want to speak to the time and grace that organizations need to do, not only in normalizing caretaking as a true identity and role, but also thinking about the day to day tasks that we may take for granted when we are caretaking for someone else and allotting time for that.
Absolutely. I know we're just getting ready to switch over to Q&A with the audience. So audience members, again, if you have some questions rolling around in your mind, please drop them into the chat and we'll be ready to hear from you in just a minute. I do
Dr.
want,
G, wait a
Mhm.
second. Dr. G,
Yeah.
before we get started, I would also love to hear your unique perspective, and I'm going to share a perspective as well. But you have older kids, and so you're thinking about taking them on college tours, right? And you have community folks that have often followed you and think about you as a mom or an aunt or an aunt, right? What are some of those things that could be inclusive practices for folks that it's not the newborn, it's the moving the kid into college, it's the going on tours? What are some of those practices that could be helpful as well?
Oh, thank you for that. Wow. I was thinking as Ashley and Brandy were both talking just about the fact that so many workplaces are leaving behind some of the flexibility that we had during COVID to have, virtual work and to trust that people are going to get things done. Like maybe it won't be just in that little amount of time between 9 to 5, because maybe I do need an afternoon to help my kid with a college application or take a college visit, but I will get that work done. So if you trust me as a professional and value anything that I have to offer, I think that flexibility that we had for virtual work was really a gift. And not just for parents with young kids, parents with medium or older kids, people who are caretaking family members. And so if you are a decision maker at an organization, and I know a lot of those conversations have been moving back towards the like ending remote work and being back in person, but just think about the fact that it's not just people who are parenting, also people who are caretaking, people who may themselves have some physical illnesses that they're trying to work through, that there are so many people that could benefit from those flexible policies, and that you might lose their talents, their brilliance, and their contributions if you force people to work in only one way. How about you, Lee? What do you want to add? I know that caretaking has been something that you've been engaged in as well.
Yes. So, fortunately, but unfortunately, I had to take care of my grandparents and also my father. So, my father died my freshman year of high school. And that's the transition time, after you hit puberty and everybody's going off to the little movies with their boyfriend. Little did I know I was gay at the time, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and so, as my friends were getting ready to learn how to drive, my father was very sick and ill, and I had to feed him. I had to pick him up off of the toilet. I had to put padding in his stitches. And so, at a very young age, I had to learn how to manage school, emotional intelligence, and emotional capacity. And in my adult age now, my mother had some health situations, and I had to think about how was I going to manage my graduate school, how was I going to manage being a professional. And often, because it wasn't my child, I didn't get that time off, right? Um, it was go on leave or think about taking serious amounts of vacation time because sick time couldn't be used as well. And so I challenge folks that when you hear in our age now, I'm in my 30s, when you think about the older Black folks in our community that might need a kidney transplant or dialysis or just can't see no more and they need to go to CVs and Walmarts and Targets, that's time away that I need that flexibility to be able to take care of my mother, because she comes first. And what I'm not going to do is not take care of my mom. And so, two of those inclusive practices are thinking about how do you have flexible leave time or capacity taking time, particularly, which I would love to be adopted. But then also, how are those benefits? So often we can share our benefits with a spouse and the kids, but can we also add our parents to insurance? Can we add our adopted siblings to the insurance? If I'm paying for it, I should be able to add who I want to. And so I think about that a lot. But I'll pass it over to you. Just before we get back to Dr. G, if you have any questions that you would like for the panelists to answer, please drop them in the chat. We would love to answer those for you all. If you have any comments, if this has been as life giving to you as it has to all of us here, nodding the mm-hms and the yes, please drop a comment. We would love to see your feedback as well. But I'm going to pass it back over to Dr. G for our next question. And any comments, I'll drop them in the chat.
Okay. I think going along with sort of suggestions and policies and ideas, I would also just like for us to think together about what can coworkers or people around us do to be supportive of those who might be caretaking or, parenting. And so thinking about supporting your colleague who maybe is about to go on a family leave, or, supporting your colleague who has been coming in late because they've been spending late nights, trying to help a family member who has a medical issue. So I think when we think about ourselves as all members of this human community, and we all know that, maybe my day will come where I will have a sick parent and that will be my responsibility. Or maybe my day will come when, I need to step in, and in the same way, I hope someone will step in at this moment for me. So just encouraging everyone to, if you're not a parent or if you're not caretaking right now, that's just right now. You don't know. You don't know what your next days might be like. Go ahead, Ashley. I think you might be.
Oh, sorry. I was just emphasizing you don't know when your day will come. It literally might just slide in your DMs. Okay. But to that point, Dr. G, I want to say I gotta have riders on my team. And what I mean by having riders on my team is I don't need nobody asking me a whole lot of questions in the moment. I need a person who's gonna ride out first. And what I mean, like if I say, hey, do you mind taking this for me? Bet. You know what I'm saying? Got you. Do you mind? Can you let them know I'm gonna be 10 minutes late? Bet. Got you. Because what that signals to me is there is a trust there, that I trust that if Ashley is asking me, there is a good reason. I don't need to ask her no questions. I don't need no timeline. I don't need no justification. Bet. I got you. Are two affirmations that I love to hear when I'm in a heightened moment around caretaking and motherhood. And again, we're talking about these two things at the intersections of all the other identities that we hold. And so, it may not be an emergency trip to daycare, but it may mean that earlier today we had a moment off of wanting to put your own socks on, and that got her to daycare late. But it was actually this comment that I read on social media about what's happening in the world right now that made me heightened. So it's not necessarily the socks that are make me heightened in that moment. It could be something that impacted my, the intersections of my identity. But the socks happening this morning made it just even more, you know what I'm saying? It's just the layeredness of it. But I need riders. I don't need nobody asking me no more questions in the moment. Now, granted, after we go through the meeting, hey, what's going on? You good? I know you needed 10 minutes, but I just need somebody who's going to say, bet, and I got you first. And we can talk questions afterwards.
I would say for me, yeah, I need a rider. I need to know you're gonna do now. We can figure it out later. But I also need like assumption of best intentions. Like I'm thinking particularly like in workspaces, like sometimes you might get side eyes like, oh, it's a luxury. She gets to leave early. I am about to go deal with a sick toddler. Not cute, not at all. Just like assumption of best intention, and we talked a little bit about trust, and I say that from a peer perspective in the workplace of like not thinking that someone who may have to leave early is getting a special privilege or anything. It's not. It is a privilege to be able to leave work early, but like it's not like like they're getting a prize. It's not like that. But also just understanding and trust, whether that's amongst your peers or if from leadership. I think that will go a long way as we think about motherhood or as we think about caretaking, because like you said, Ashley, you never know when it's going to be you, whether it's being a mother, being a parent, being a caretaker. And so assume those best intentions and continue to just assume best things, but not be judgmental, and assume, like, don't assume things about what it is that they may be going through, or they may be overstimulated. They, like you said, there may have been a whole fuss out in the car about the bottle. Your child may have threw a bottle at you on the way to school while you were driving to daycare. You never know what it is. So just continuing to that same grace that I mentioned earlier for yourself as a mother, as a caretaker, to extend to others, because you never know what it is that they have going on behind the scenes.
Thank you so much. So we are moving towards the closing of our time together, and so I just first want to express my true gratitude to both of our brilliant and insightful guests today. I feel like we've unpacked some of the doubts that can gnaw at us as parents and caretakers, but also reminded ourselves and each other of the people we can call on and the ways that we can support each other and the ways we can name and ask for what we need. So if we need someone who's going to just take something I need to hand to you and not ask questions, or if we need someone who's going to affirm our value to the organization and say, like, we don't want to lose you, you mean so much to us. Yes, you're adding parent to your roles, but let's find a way, let's grow as an organization so that we can still be inclusive of you and your talents. And so if you are a person who has parenting or caretaking roles, to remember your worth and not be afraid to ask for what it is you need as you do, fulfill all the various parts of who you are. And to not think that your contributions are any less because maybe you're also adding this extra role. Let me just see if Ashley and Brandi have any kind of like last thought they want to share, and then Lee's going to close it up for us.
I just want to thank you both for the space. I think it is so vital and important to be bringing the realness of these roles into the conversation. I also want to speak to kind of how it intersects with the research that I do. And so my research looks at Black women who receive government assistance and the ways in which they use what I call everyday resistance strategies in order to persevere through 2020 at the intersections of Trump, COVID, and the murder of George Floyd, but specifically how those three factors impacted how they thought about motherhood, their bodies, and reproduction. And so if you are interested in that research, then please send me a message on LinkedIn, because community support, to your point, Dr. Dream, a point of our conversation here, community support is actually an everyday resistance strategy that these women use in order to persevere as mothers and as women who are not mothers who may be thinking about motherhood. And so you can send me a message on LinkedIn, go to my website, ashleygaddyenterprises.com. And that's where all of my information is as well. Feel free to also follow me on YouTube. You can find a lot of videos and content that I share between the intersections of authenticity and truth telling. That's a really good way to get kind of a preview of my work. And hire me. Thank you. I am an entrepreneur. Hire me. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
So again, thank you all for the opportunity. I guess it really hit me when I was asked to be a part of this panel. Like, dang, well, I've been knew I was a mother. Believe me, my bank account shows me, my lifestyle shows me everything. But just to think of myself as an expert, as a mother, I'm like, whoo, every day I don't have it all together. Sometimes I'm calling my mother to be like, look, I have so much grace and empathy for everything that you have done for me. As I navigate this, but just the opportunity to be in this space, and just to continue remaining connected. Some of the research that I do as I finish up my doctoral degree thinks about the importance of community, but specifically counter spaces, the creation of counter spaces. That my work specifically looks at Black women doctoral students, but like myself, I became a mother in the midst of being a doctoral student and thinking about how those shifts in identity might also influence your persistence or like desire to persist in your program. And so that's a little bit about me and my research. You all can remain connected with me. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I don't have a website. Maybe one day. I got to eat off like one bite at a time. I'm trying to get this doctor behind my name currently, but I look forward to continuing to create spaces for these conversations, and to continue to grow communities and serve communities. So thank you for the opportunity to be here, everyone.
Awesome. If you all enjoyed this time with us today, we just simply ask that you share all that love, whether you're watching this live with us today, or you're watching this after, or you're watching this 5 years from now in 2029. Please drop some love. It's never too late just to show people that you care and appreciate them. Thank you, Dr. Ashley. Thank you, Brandi. And thank you, Dr. G, for sharing your unique perspectives here today as mothers. If you enjoyed this, we also have some great events coming up soon. So we can't wait to see you on our next stream, which happens on Monday, August 26th, here at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back here on LinkedIn. And following that up, that stream is talking about how to build emotional intelligence and inclusive environments through IQ and EQ. So be on the lookout for that. And our one that's going to be happening next Thursday at 1 p.m. is talking about how do you think about education and transforming those environments to be inclusive spaces through seed planting and holistic development. We are so excited to see you all on our upcoming streams, and we've had such an amazing time with you all today. So thank you so much for joining us. As a reminder, please follow us at Manifesting Inclusion here on LinkedIn. You can also go to manifestinginclusion.com. Please connect with Brandi Kennedy and Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins, and soon to be Dr. Brandi Kennedy. And we can't wait to see you on our next stream. Bye now, good people.
Thank you. Bye.